Welcome to Reap What You Sow. My name is Seth Schaefer, and I am here with Mr. Daniel Hayes. Welcome.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for having me, brother.
Of course. Now, Mr. Daniel Hayes, this guy, he started out with some print modeling. He also did some acting. At the root of it all, though, this man is an athlete, specifically a boxer. And on top of it, to finish it all off, he's an entrepreneur. Now, Daniel, why don't you tell me a little bit more about, so he runs a cryotherapy lab, which is, I got to try it, spectacular. Would recommend it to everyone. But not everyone knows what exactly it is, and I want you to kind of take that away a little bit more and give us a little description about what it is and how it works.
Well, first I gotta say thank you for the plug. So pretty much what I've created as an entrepreneur is BR Cryo. So that stands for Body Rejuvenation Cryotherapy. So BRC for short as the acronym. And what cryotherapy is, think of it as a microwave version of an ice bath. So it's liquid nitrogen. So instead of water submersion with an ice bath, liquid nitrogen comes into the cryo sauna. You're there at negative 246 for 3 minutes. But honestly, it sounds way worse than what it is, as you experienced yourself.
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you come out of there feeling amazing. It helps with inflammation, any sort of physical ailments, anything like that. It's definitely highly recommended and highly athlete endorsed.
And it's not very long either. I mean, how long? What are you in there for? How
3
long?
minutes.
3 minutes? Yeah. I was in and out when I went there, and I got the whole thing, the leg compressor. What is it? What is that thing called?
That's the Normatec compression therapy.
Boy, that I had a bounce in my step after that stuff felt great. Now, I think that one of the things I wanted to speak with you on is where does the entrepreneur side come into this? Because I know that you started doing boxing and then you got hurt, and then the cryotherapy happened. Now, as an athlete, when you get hurt, you start to realize what else is out there. And then how did you get into cryotherapy? Where did you find this? And where are you now?
Yeah, so pretty much you're totally right with that. Is when I broke my hand, you start thinking, hey, I'm not so immortal, or hey, I'm not Superman, So for me, it was thinking of stuff outside of the ring. And how I got involved with cryotherapy is, to cut a long story short, back in 2016 when I was training for Rio, I got injured. I had a shoulder injury, so my labrum, and I was just toughing it out. I was taking, so much naproxen and painkillers, you name it. It had me feeling so groggy, lethargic. I was dehydrated all the time. And then one time, one of my sparring partners showed up late. And I was like, hey, bro, why are you late, right? Yeah. He's like, I had to get my cryo in, bro. And I was like, what? And I had always heard about cryotherapy before. And, you'd see it on TV and whatnot. And it was just at that moment I was, why don't I just try this? So I ended up going to the cryo studio. And to cut a long story short, ended up getting sponsored by them. Did it heal my labrum? No, it didn't. But I was noticing a lot of other benefits where I was snapping back so quickly from my workouts. Things that would normally get sore weren't getting sore. So I was noticing a lot of the benefits. So I made it part of my regime. And then when I started thinking of things to do entrepreneurially, stuff outside of the ring, I was noticing a lot of my, other athlete entrepreneur friends or whatnot were involved in fitness. And everybody would tell me as a boxer, hey, why don't you open a boxing studio?
Yeah, that makes the most sense on paper.
Right. And I've always been an outside the box thinker. So I was just thinking, how can I help, instead of being competition to, let's say my acquaintances or my friends, how can I help them, or how can we work together? Because I've always been a team sport athlete. And that's just pretty much how the idea of cryotherapy, and also you believe in it. It's part of my daily regime.
Right.
It's something I do on the regular, so it never feels like you're selling it.
Yeah, and really it sounds more than anything, it's an extension of you. It's an extension of what you do. You believe in this, and this just so happens to now be your livelihood, and that's the best way to do it. I don't know anyone who, well, at least I don't believe in people who sell products that they don't believe in. I don't think that really works well, and I don't really know if it even works at all. If you don't believe wholeheartedly that this is the best thing or this will help you, then you're not really doing anybody any good, and I don't really know how long your business will last, because it's a phony, you know. And that's why I was lucky to experience the whole thing, and dude, I really like that, and I think it was cool. And it's interesting to know how that split little thing of someone just saying, hey, this is why I was late, and then you're like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 2 years later, boom, here you are with your own. And so with all that stuff being said, is that, how did you start? Where did you start? You know, how did you go about opening this, and what was your plan, and where are you now?
Yeah, so pretty much I had one location in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was a lot. To be honest, I never went to business school, so I was through the school of Google and YouTube. I was just being totally, typical millennial thing, but that's pretty much how I learned it. That was my business school, asking other entrepreneurs, just learning, noticing what other people are doing so much research. So as far as my education, when it comes to that, it would have been pretty much the internet, to be honest with you. And then when it came to North Carolina, going over there, my business partner over there played in the league for a number of years. So he had all the connections. So he was really in charge of the location, marketing, whatnot. I was in charge of learning cryotherapy like the back of my hand, and being able to orchestrate opening a business. And so that's pretty much how that got started over there.
So he's got the people, you have to get the rest of it together, and then and doors are open.
Yes.
So that fast forward, now you have a place in Calabasas, and you live out here. So what happened to get you there?
Okay, so with Calabasas, that's just one of those opportunities that fell in my lap, and it wasn't necessarily something that I had on the front burner, but it was one of those opportunities where I just said, you know what, not all the time you're ready. Sometimes you just got to go for it and just figure it out as you do it. And that's exactly, to be honest with you, what happened with the Calabasas location. And it's been an amazing process, and I definitely don't regret doing it. But that's pretty much how the Calabasas location came about.
It's really nice when stuff just works, when it just happens. And it's even better when you don't expect it. It just, here's the opportunity, and it's always awesome to be in the position where you can just say, yes, we're going to do it. And it sounds like that's kind of what Matt, manifested in the whole thing, was you were ready. It was the right time, right place, right opportunity, and here you are. So now it comes to a point where, is there franchising? What's the next stages of BR Cryo?
Yeah, so for me, you hit the nail on the head with that. It is going to be to franchise it. I do,
nice.
And I'm sure everybody as an entrepreneur, and when you create something from scratch, I'm sure you could totally relate. You really hold that brand close, and you don't want to see that so watered down. So that's something really what I'm trying to do right now, is focusing on the mastery of building the brand, and not only in building the brand, so when I do franchise it, there will be certain protocols in place where you get that experience, and that's what you're getting at.
No matter where you're at,
yeah,
we hold it at this level.
Yeah.
And it's the equivalent of going to a Four Seasons hotel. Doesn't matter where, it's always going to be nice. And I think the big thing for a smaller franchise is always with the people who you find to be the person that you trust, and that will hold it to an accountability that you do. That's where it's the hardest.
Yeah.
So if you were to put one anywhere, where would you do it? If guaranteed success, where?
I'm going to say Miami. And the reason why I say Miami is, to be honest with you, this LA traffic is starting to wear on me. So it's just starting to wear on me,
It's tough.
And I've always loved Miami. I really, really love Miami. I've always said I wanted to live there. And so to answer that question, it would be Miami.
Miami's a cool place too.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting, but the water there, I went in December one time. The water was awesome. I was on the beach drinking a coconut, sitting, sitting out on the beach. And I'm like, it's December 5th, or
Yeah.
crazy.
I gotta say, last year or just a couple months ago. Sorry, I don't know why I'm saying last year. Just a couple months ago, my friend convinced me to go over to Zuma Beach. Right. So we go over there, and he went in the water, and he's crazy because he doesn't feel cold. So I didn't think it was that bad to go in the water. And mind you, this I said a couple months ago, so we're talking spring, summertime. And I remember going in that, and it was like a tsunami of frigid temperature hit me, man. That was not fun.
That we first moved here, and someone was like, "Oh, you got to go and get in the water," and I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." It's maybe May. Oh, bad decision. I get in there and I'm like, oh, and then I started to warm up to it more as it got warmer. It was easier to get in, and now I walk outside and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
No way. It's gonna be cold, and that's always the funny part about here is that even though it's 72 and sunny every day, the water is just always cold.
Yeah. Don't let that fool you. The palm
It's
trees.
such a tease.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which Miami is. I do think it's really cool, and the traffic is is a little bit. It's different.
Yeah. The only thing with Miami, to be honest with you, not that I would have to worry about it, is I have a phobia of snakes. And I don't know if you know what's going on in the Everglades. Are you familiar? Also, dude, it's totally overrun by pythons. Like, there's actually a python. I'm dead serious. There's actually a python infestation. Google it. Anybody listening, Google it. Going on in the Everglades. Yeah, man. So it's getting pretty much, the wildlife over there is kind of crazy. But obviously, you wouldn't deal with that in the heart of downtown Miami. But yeah, that's not something, or just casually people would talk about it. I have a few friends that live there, and they'd be like, oh, they would see an alligator in their backyard. And that's a normal thing.
Yeah, that's insane to me.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, I could see a little bit of, that acclimation. But other than that, I think I would definitely do it.
I don't particularly enjoy snakes.
Yeah.
I can't say that I'd be happy to see one roaming around here like, oh, hey, buddy. So I think the crocodile, it goes the same way. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
So I did not know that about you. That's
python?
great. Yeah,
No,
now I
I'm
know.
telling you, Google it.
It's more interesting to think that's the thing that you're afraid of. You're a fighter. You're
Terrified of snakes.
So the name, the honey badger. I know you've probably asked this a million times. I know, but I gotta know. You gotta tell me where's the name come from?
Okay, so now you're almost outing me right now, because with the honey badger, one of the traits of a honey badger is it kills a lot of snakes. Yeah. So but I would have to, if a snake and we cross paths and I had to think, yeah, I would kill it. But anyway, to get back to the whole thing with snakes, with the honey badger, it was a sparring session. So it was a sparring session. This is a few years back, where a viral video was going around on YouTube about a honey badger, right? And so pretty much, long story short, after the pro sparring session, a guy that was on looking, he came up to me. He's like, oh, man, because I was known as the bull, El Toro. And he was like, oh, man, you fight like a honey badger. I was like, dude, what the hell is that? Like, I didn't think anything of it. I thought it was almost an insult or something like that. So I remember I went home, Googled it, saw the video. I was like, yo, this is a pretty badass animal.
And that's where it all came from.
Next day, I went by it. That weekend, I was fighting that weekend. And I remember they were asking, what before the fight, you pick your music, and then anything else you want them to say. And so when I was giving the DJ what I wanted him to say, so Daniel, the honey badger Hayes, I remember, I'll never forget this, and then this is when I said I was going to ride with it. I never will forget when I was walking out, and the ring announcer saying, Daniel, the honey badger, Hayes. And as I'm walking out, I'm seeing people's faces. The honey badger, like, just like, because this is a few years ago, before it even got so popular,
So
right?
confused.
And then, but after that, to be honest with you, people didn't even they didn't even know my first name. They didn't know my last name. They're like, oh, hey, I saw you fight like a month ago. You're the honey badger, right? And that's pretty much
Boom.
it.
Now
And
you're the
from
honey
there-
badger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you when you think of animals and stuff, you mainly I think of sports teams. So you don't really think of the honey badgers. You know, that never was a thought.
Yeah.
It's more like whatever, the Tigers, Rams, or whatever. And so it is really cool though, because I know the video you're talking about, and I've seen that, and it does make sense now. So I think not to go off a little bit, but I am fascinated in this. How did you go into print modeling and how did that start for you? And then what was the transition to back to boxing?
Oh, well, with the whole, let's say, print modeling, acting, that's just all something I fell into, right? And
You said yes.
pretty much I just said yes. I just went with the flow. With boxing, so pretty much the whole thing, even getting into fighting, like I played basketball in college. I played basketball my entire life. When I finished college, I just had so much left in the gas tank. And if you think about it, I think it's a huge misconception that people have where, mind you, you're 22, 21, 22 years old when you come out of college. As an athlete, you don't hit your prime till 28. So when people are saying, oh, I'm old or whatnot, it's just a crock of, So long story short, what I did when I came out of college, I had so much left in the gas tank. And then I was seeing my teammates, they were just losing that edge, that competitive nature. And I got into mixed martial arts. And from mixed martial arts, that pretty much turned into boxing. And here we are today.
Here you are. So were you, as a kid, were you a scrapper, a fighter? Did you get in some trouble?
Yeah. But the thing is, I was on both ends of it. I was bullied and I was a bully. So I was on both ends of that stick. But I was definitely always very quick to fight. And I remember, too, just like from a little kid, literally recess, everybody would get in a circle, and I had my thing where I would take my jacket off, and yeah,
it was like the robe before you had a robe.
Yeah, literally.
I'll take my jacket.
Yeah, I remember it, and then I would remember because sometimes they would promote it, like literally. They would, like when you're kids and you're all young
after
boys.
School.
Yeah, like literally, they're gonna fight after school. And I remember sometimes, or they're gonna fight at recess, because it would always happen. There would always be something that would happen in gym class. Like, let's say you pushed me, or you fouled me, or just like something. Let's just say, right? And I remember some days it wouldn't even be cold out. But remember telling you with the jacket, I would still wear the jacket.
Always knew the jacket was coming out.
Yeah.
Like, there he is in the jacket. They looked at him. Before you were the honey badger, you were just the guy with the jacket. That was you. And now here you are.
Yeah.
It is funny how it almost manifests itself into, professional boxing, because it's the same thing. You get people together and the fight has been promoted, and then you take off the jacket, and then you get in the ring, and then you win or you lose. And it was
pretty much.
It's just now it's here.
Yeah. For me, I realized now, even reflecting back as a kid, the thing I always wanted to be as a kid is WWE, in the WWE, right? So I always used to look at it as, professional wrestling, let's just say, right? One of the things I was tormented by my cousins is they would always practice the moves on me, right?
Of course.
So it's just like, I guess I was always around it, and then
How generous of them.
friggin' rock bottoms, man.
Yeah, I had a couple cousins. I have a lot of cousins, and they were a lot older than me, and I'm like I was like a skinny little dude, and you get the whooping, man.
Yeah.
You get it. I'm going to show you a suplex. You're like, ooh.
Yeah.
I know what that is, and I do not want that.
Yeah.
Please. But then you learn how to, fend for yourself. And you're like, no. you take that to someone else. There's
Yeah.
I have another cousin smaller. You call him up, get his number.
Yeah, see, like for me, I was the youngest, and the thing is, though, I was I wasn't very smart when you think about it, because let's say they would do something to you and they would put you in check. I would still, like, as they're walking away, I'd, like, throw something at them, or just like, so I was always starting shit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Always getting in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was the youngest one, so I was just, if I was them, to be honest, now running it back, I would do it if I was them. To me, I would do the same thing because I really look for it. when
You were
think
you
about
were
it.
you were just giving a little push.
Yeah.
Even after they came after, you're like, nope. You had to get the last word in, kind of thing.
Always, yeah, always.
Well, now with now with knowing that, has that have you found that was part of your fighting style and things like that? Is that it was always kind of oh, you hit me, now I'm ready to go. You needed like a little wake up before you kind of got.
Well, with fighting, definitely not. I'm always the aggressor. I've always been a pressure fighter. So that's always been my signature style.
So you were the opposite as.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, though, if you're going to draw a correlation, this is something I've learned recently in sports psychology. It would be, I've always been, though, as an athlete or just, let's say, a performer, one thing that I've learned to correct is a slow starter. So let's just say if it was the first round, sometimes, you just need that first round to acclimate, but some people are just good right off the bat, right? So that was something that, I've had to work on and had to address. So that would fall in line with that.
Right. So off the gate, it's not you. And then
you're
boom.
Screwed once I get momentum. You're like, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
But it just takes
yeah.
It just takes a little time. Have you had guys who kind of mess with you and you're like, dude, you really don't want, not it. I guess out of the ring where they ever have me on here just like, please, you don't want this.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't want to get in a physical altercation outside of work. Yeah.
Because it's work to you.
If something did happen and I had to, 100% I would throw down. If not, though, to be honest, I would just say, listen, you seem like a tough guy. I don't want any problems. Because a lot of times at the bar, when it's some idiot that's going to do that, if they're already doing that, they just want a reason to fight. Mm-hmm. And I've known a couple guys that are those likes to fight guys that will go to like boxing or MMA class and even spar, and then they just go on a Friday or Saturday
just to go,
just to look for
just
a fight,
it's like,
or look for some idiot.
Go boxing.
Yeah,
you can do that.
Yeah.
It's you're at a gym. Talk to your buddy. Do you want to spar?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you can get all that aggression out and not get arrested or get in any trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside. I guess it is funny to think about it though, because this is your profession. It's really like work after that, where you really, of course you don't want to fight. You're like, this is
definitely not.
I do this every day. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm trying to relax. Don't leave me alone.
Yeah.
I have found that when you do something for work, sometimes it is challenging to do it outside. Obviously, fighting is different, but it still has the same thing. Like, no, you don't want to get in a fight after work. But even like Curtis does all the video stuff for us now, him doing that for work and then doing it for fun, sometimes there's a correlation there that's like, I don't want to do this, because I do it, I get paid to do this, and this is what I have to do now. And that's where it gets challenging when you have something that you really love, but then you turn it into work. And that's always where you're like, so it's cool that now you have a second outlet with the cryotherapy and sinking your teeth into that as a business and having something that you like and you enjoy and getting it to run. And so when it comes to the business side of it, how have you been branding and how have you been building, and what's it like to start a business through your eyes?
So the starting it part, I realized a lot of it is mental and it's in your head where you think it's harder than what it is. And then when you actually start taking action and you actually start building that momentum, things just start to fall into place and it's easier than what you thought it was this huge mountain, right? So starting it was easy. I would say some things that I have learned along the way is it's easy to start the business, whatever, but when it then came to running it, the day to day operations, let's say the managerial duties and whatnot, that's really where it was a learning process at first with, interactions with the customers. Don't get me wrong, it's very easy to give excellent customer service and whatnot, but to deal with that day in and day out is a whole different beast. And I could see how some people just get worn down or, just mentally even burned out. And that was something that I had to pretty much learn to deal with and just how to get through that on a day-to-day basis.
Sure. That I think dealing in customer service it's always challenging because you're figuring out a problem. You're solving a problem. And even business, anyone who's an entrepreneur or a CEO or any part of work, I mean, even part of life is just solving problems. And their problem is now your problem. And then you have to figure out a way to make everything work. And even just the stuff that you're talking about, just the regular task of going through and doing this day-to-day stuff. When I know you think to the stars, and then now you're dealing with people in day-to-day stuff. You're like, I need to get up here, and
Yeah.
it's always tough to get up and do the small stuff to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Now I understand when it comes to thinking small or thinking big and working small. What about when it comes to training and pushing through? Have you seen a correlation between your work ethic when it comes to boxing and then your work ethic when it comes to building a business?
100%. One thing that I realized too early on was in business, so just even me as an athlete, I've never been an individual sport athlete until fighting, right? I'd always been a team athlete. So I grew up playing basketball and I played that sport for my entire life. And I realized in business I was always more drawn to the team concepts. I enjoyed working together. I enjoyed grinding it out together with people, doing those dog hours and just, really because it felt like going in a regular season where you're going to go through all these ups and downs and whatnot.
But you were together at least.
Yeah, and you were together. And that's something that I try to bring into the entrepreneurial realm in making it a team concept, a team endeavor. But then you realize, there's a difference between people that are invested financially, people that are invested with sweat equity. There's different concepts to it. And a lot of times that time only tells with those things, right?
Right. And it is challenging when you're dealing with that stuff. And a lot of it's a lot of self-reliance, and then hoping that the other person stays accountable, and knowing that if it doesn't, then you'll pick it up and do what you need to do. And at the end of it, you're like, all right, I got it. But I think one of the things I was trying to hit on more was with working out and fighting, you can see direct results, right? Anybody who wants to lose 20 pounds, they start working out, you can measure your success, where sometimes in entrepreneurship, there is untrackable things. You can see results or financial things, results being money or clients coming in or repeat business or your analytics on social media and things like that. But there's a lot of stuff that's not trackable that you can't see, and you're like, am I doing the right stuff?
Yeah, you're 100%. You're 100% right, and that's something that you just have to keep having that bigger picture, that bigger vision, And a lot of times that's what's going to, at least for me, I've noticed that has taken me through those dark or those dog days,
Hmm.
because you're grinding, you're going at 100%, you're just trying so many different things, and sometimes just the results aren't there, or it's just not yielding what you want it to yield. And it gets so frustrating, I know, for me at times. And for me, I just always go back to my bigger picture. What's the bigger picture? And that's definitely been a challenge that I've had. It's
You're
100%.
just banging your head against the wall, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then one little thing happens, and you're like, okay. And then stuff starts to come, but it always comes back around where you're like, well, what do I need to do to fix this? And it's that same, it's that same thing. Now, with this, what would you give to an entrepreneur who's about to start a business? What would you say to him? Hey, this is probably the most important thing I've learned going through all this stuff.
Find a mentor. For sure, find a mentor. I think, though, there's different levels, and please, everybody pay very close attention to this. There's different levels to mentors. I think it's great when you have a mentor that has, let's say, 40 years in a certain or specific field, because the vast knowledge and experience. However, I think it's also equally important to have somebody, a mentor, that's just one or two steps ahead of you. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of the struggles that they would have recently faced would be relatable to your current situation, where a more seasoned mentor might not even be able to relate to that. They might take that for, let's say, either, you're green or you're just not ready or whatnot, where somebody that's a little less experienced than that would be able to give you better advice.
Look at the technology change in just a couple years. I mean,
100%.
that alone, someone who's been in the industry for however long, they can't relate to Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's great advice, having someone you can ask. And I think even in your business and outside of your business is always good too. I mean, we're on, like, having people who are in your industry and being able to talk to them about struggles, and having, I guess, a close group of people that are kind of like your mentors or peers that are in that realm, super beneficial to have to talk to. Also, I think one of the things that you're also highlighting is having an outside perspective,
Hmm.
because what you talked about earlier was, yeah, you bang your head against the wall, you're trying all this stuff, and sometimes I realize that for my business, I'm in my own way, and then I have to step back, go back, and go again. And when I have someone else to say, well, have you tried this? Or when I have someone who I can talk through my problems and we can find a solution with, I notice that I have that aha
Uh,
moment.
yeah.
And I would say perspective is one of the bigger things. And I know I've heard you talk about perspective and things like that before. What's your perspective? What's the mindset that you should be in when you're running a business or when you're starting one?
Yeah. I think, as you were saying, with perspective, one thing that I've helped even to help build my perspective, or that would keep me cognizant of that, is with meditation as well. That's also something that I've picked up recently, just to add on that. But for, let's say, an entrepreneur that's starting out, I think another mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make, let's say in building a brand, or let's say even in fitness, is they think theirs is the best. Like, their studio is the best, and they don't know anything else outside of that studio. So then what happens is they just become so brainwashed into that one way of thinking, as opposed to, let's say, you went to another studio, or you just had that different experience where you let's say you're an instructor and you own this studio. You only think along that line, whereas opposed to, you haven't been a student at another class and had it just humbled down, looking at the other amenities in another studio, just looking at other people, how they do things. And I think that's one thing that I think is a big strength of mine that I take from athletics, where you're just always studying other people. You really just take yourself out of your own identity. You're looking at somebody else, you're studying, you're taking the good from it, you're taking the bad from it, and you're looking how to add that to yourself. And that's how I look at it in business and also in sport, and myself as an individual.
I think that's also great advice. I do think that you should believe that yours is. I do think you should believe in your brand and what your stuff is, but not to the point where you can't look at someone else's and say, what are they doing right? If they have customers, if they're still in business, then they're doing something right. Whether it's not your method or the way you do things, doesn't mean that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm in the same boat. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm always researching other people's stuff. I'm looking at what the next style stuff is that I don't even like.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I look at it. I need to know what's next. What are people doing? And in order to do that, it helps me stay current. It helps me know. And I guess with cryotherapy too, I mean, you were talking about it in 2016 and you said you've heard about it before. I didn't even know. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, maybe I live under a rock, but I didn't know that this stuff existed. I think it was more the athletes may have known more, but I guess you also have your new struggle is that this is a newer thing. Mm-hmm. So you have a whole different set of challenges that maybe I necessarily don't. Custom clothes has been around for so long. It's nothing new. It's just being reinvented. But with you have a product that hasn't ever really been.
Yeah, totally. You're totally right. And that's been
so you're
something...
educating.
Yeah.
And marketing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
How are you going through that? What's it been like?
So that's been a big challenge with marketing, because if you get too wordy, you get too educational, you're going to turn people off, right? So even in social media, the day and age we live in, with instant gratification, or things have to be so eye-catchy, cool, you could do that with cryo. You could make it eye-catchy, but then it can't be educational. And then the person still is asking, what is cryotherapy? So that's been something that, and every cryo entrepreneur has been going through this. It's just something that comes with the territory, and we try to definitely make it where it's that merger of the both, of not only marketing but also educational as well.
I think that the big thing that you probably have going for you is that people who enjoy it, or people that you have come in, once they get it, they and then you teach them while they're there, this is what it is, and you give them the whole thing, that all of a sudden you have an ambassador that hopefully goes and tells people like, oh, well, I did cryotherapy. Like, what is that? And then you're like, well, this is what it is. And then they're just regurgitating the information you just gave them.
Yeah.
So, but with that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes more people doing it. It takes the whole thing. And
well, to be honest, one thing that we've worked on and that I've been training with my staff is, so you're in the cryo sauna for 3 minutes. So let's say, aside from even marketing, once you get somebody in there, as you were saying, when dealing with a customer or whatnot, and they try it for their first time, they're in there for 3 minutes. They're not going anywhere.
You have them frozen.
You have them frozen. You have 3 minutes, right? So pretty much what I do is, exactly what you're saying. Them. I inform them. I'm like, listen, these are the health benefits you're going to get. We have boards up where you can read, because they're looking to be distracted anyway. They don't want to think about how cold they are. So aside from them wanting their picture for social media or whatever, we are educating them the entire time, keeping them distracted, getting them through the session. And that's one thing I'm very particular about, as you were saying, with our brand and what we're creating for cryotherapy. And that's one thing I definitely want to have down the line as we franchise.
And that makes a lot of sense, because the educational part, when something is new to a lot of consumers, we now know, but I was assuming before, because I thought maybe I'm the Stone Age. I don't know, but I think when it comes to something that's new, it is a challenging thing. But the educational piece does come quick. You have to push it quick, because if people don't know about it, then what? Then you're out of business. That's what happens. Yeah. But so now, the final part that I want to ask you about, out of business, out of life, boxing, things like that, is what about clothing, style, fashion? Do you dress up for work for what you do, or do you not have to? And what do you like to wear?
Okay, so it's funny. I get heckled by my friends a lot sometimes.
Why is that? What do they say?
So I love Lululemon. I love the way the clothes fit. I love the way it feels. I love the style. You know, some of this stuff is just like a little bit too tight, but you know, like some of it goes a little overboard. I'll agree.
You're not wearing your yoga pants, man. I'm so.
You know. And then other than that, though, I really like let's say colored pants. So I'm really into fashion, not as much as let's say Russell Westbrook. I don't take it that far.
Fair enough.
But I definitely do admire fashion. I enjoy seeing just somebody put it all together really nicely. And, you know, I admire people like yourself, well dressed, always, very gentlemanly, and, you know, always well tailored, well put together.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It comes with the job.
Yeah,
it comes with the job.
I can see.
But so, you know, with that stuff, with you know, fighting trunks or things like that, do you pick colors? Do you do all that stuff?
So my favorite color for fighting has always been black and red, even though I would always
Strong.
get coming out of the blue corner for whatever reason. But when it ever came to me having to pick any sort of colors, I'd always stick with those two colors, black and red. I don't know what it is about those two.
I mean, it's a mean color. It just.
Yeah.
Now we're about to finish up here, and I think, is there anything that you want to tell anybody? Any updates or anything like that? And go ahead, actually.
Well, yeah, I will be having my book coming out at the end of this year, early next year. It's called Life is a Fight. So stay tuned for that. I hope to get on again before that. Tell you a little bit more about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, I want to read it. I want to read it, and then I want to ask you a bunch of questions about it.
100%.
For sure. And also, is there any? Is there any? You want to give me a little sneak? I want to know. Give me a little something. Give me a little something about the book. Something maybe you didn't talk about.
Well, in the book, you'll see a lot of my life story. It's not autobiographical, but it also will give you a lot of tips. It uses examples of myself in my athletic career or personal life that you could take into business. So it's not necessarily a self-improvement. It's a merger of the two. But
cool.
It's tools so you could become the best version of yourself. And life is a fight. And I try to just give you the best, go in your corner and give you the best tools to fight through life.
Man, that's good. Well, thank you so much for coming out. Appreciate having you here. And that's it for Reap What You Sow. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, brother.